Raider the video game, we got a Star Wars Build-A-Bear, and it's horrifying, and kids today don't know anything about Halloween candy. All that and more right now on Up at Noon Live.
Oh, hey.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good morrow.
To all of you all over the world, welcome to our wonderful little humble home of nonsense and strangities.
Yes, hello everybody. This is Up at Noon. My name is Max Scoville. This is Brian Altano. And we do this every Thursday at that coveted time slot of noon Pacific time on Thursdays. Yeah,
The
that's
best
right.
time for a fake late night show.
At the middle of the day when people are at work. Anyway, if you're not at work or if you are, whichever, it's fine. You can be watching this on all sorts of different platforms. We are on everything that IGN is on, which is YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, PS4, Xbox One. Did I forget anything?
Quinzel.
Quinzel.
Yeah, just
yes.
launched.
Quinzel, that's
Brand
the
new
new
console.
It's
By the
exclusively
Rovio CT.
for videos of people swinging their hair around, but we got around that because I just did that. That was the one stipulation.
There
you
it
gotta
is.
have somebody swinging their hair. It's a really weird platform.
And I can't do that, for I have none.
No. But we support you anyway.
Thank you very much.
Anyway, let's see. First of all, I want to thank our sponsor, 5 Hour Energy. They sponsored the show. We're going to be talking a bit about speed running later in the show, which is a thing you can do if you have energy and focus and whatnot, which is a thing that they endow people with.
That's right. Yeah, thank you to 5 Hour for powering this episode.
Seriously. Also, they bought us this small resin bear.
Yeah, we also owe them a quick shout out because they helped launch this show. Like, it was really hard to get this weird show off the ground, and 5 Hour was like, we'll be there for it. And we're like, really? No one was going to be there for it.
Also, look at this show. They came back. Like, why? I don't know.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So thanks,
So anyway,
guys.
thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to sponsor our show, please do that.
Max, we have so much awesome stuff to talk about this week. I don't even know where to start. There are you can't see them off to the sides as every week. We have boxes of toys. There's a type of alcohol. It's gonna get fun in here.
I have a large folder here that may or may not be entirely full of Dragon Ball Z fan art that I drew over 15 years ago.
Strap in. This is
gonna be good.
This is gonna get great.
First things first. There's a bunch of cool, fun, nerdy news that I want to just get started off with. It's always like a weird week when we're like, oh, there's nothing to talk about on the show, and then Thursday morning we come in and we're like, oh, HBO's doing Watchmen? Apparently they might be. We just found out officially HBO ordered a pilot episode of a Watchmen TV show that I think is going to be written by Damon Lindelof, who you may know from Lost and
The Leftovers.
A bunch of other stuff. HBO, if you're unfamiliar, Watchmen was almost an HBO show a million years ago. It took a lot of weird different forms. I think Terry Gilliam, Paul Greengrass are both attached to the movie at one point. And then we got the Zack Snyder one, which some people love it, some people hate it, but whatever. But I think the format works best as an HBO show. I made this.
I like that logo you did.
I probably spent way too much time on a boring image that doesn't really have much of a use aside from this one context.
No, that logo in the upper right's great. That's a good shirt.
I like
for
that
Hot
he's
Topic.
just looking up at you. He's like, "Hey, do you mind? I'm trying to watch this hit new HBO series.
It looks
The
like
Watchmen.
It looks like he was caught yanking.
Who watches The Watchmen? Me, Dr. Manhattan.
Is he watching his Watchmen?
He's probably. I don't
movie.
know. Anyway,
Yeah. So that's cool. That could be good.
This is a weird one. I'm a big fan of Akira.
Yes.
The anime, the manga, all that stuff. I'm not a big fan of the idea of making it as a Hollywood movie. However, the guy who's directing Thor Ragnarok, who's done Hunt for the Wilder People, Eagle vs. Shark, a bunch of other weird movies, Taika
What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows. Taika Waititi, New Zealand director, is apparently in talks about directing it, and based on the little bit we've seen of Thor Ragnarok, it might work.
Yeah.
I mean,
so you and I, we've been fans of Akira pretty much for half of our lives at this point.
That's what got me into anime in the
I
first place.
saw it when I was a kid, or probably in high school. I think I've told the story before, but there was a dude at the mall that I worked at that sold bootleg Japanese movie DVDs underneath this makeup stand. And we would go there and we'd buy them. And Akira was one of the first ones I saw. He was just like, "Yo, dog, you gotta watch this movie. It's called Akira." And I went home and I put it on. And I was like, "This is insane. This is awesome." But ever since then, like clockwork, there's been a rumor every 6 months in magazines, from the internet to everything, that someone is going to make a live action movie of this, and I've always sort of winced at the idea of it. And I'm with you that this is the first time that I'm kind of okay with it. And I see why you're a fan of him, because you guys, there's an inherent bias there.
He showed up to Comic-Con wearing it wasn't even just a Hawaiian shirt, it was a jumper. It was like a little pair of shorts that were sewed into like a Hawaiian shirt. And at one point, I think I saw him walk by in the hall, and I just did like a double take, and I was like, "I'm gonna go see Thor Ragnarok when it comes out." I don't give a damn. That man knows how to buy clothing.
I know most of the shows I do with you involve our legs being covered by tables, but please don't wear a jumper.
I couldn't do a jumper. I got
You're
weird
too
long.
tall. You
I'm
look
like
like a stork.
No, like a flamingo.
Yeah.
Like a colorful stork from,
like
from the swamps.
You look like a white ladder.
Anyway, thanks. Anyway, no, I think Akira. It's one of those things where there's so much style and art direction and everything, and people frequently think of like the kind of grittier, more serious sides of it. But there's also like a lot of sort of cartooniness, because it's animated. So I think if you're going to do it, just really lean into the heavy neon and the visual excitement of it, rather than trying to be like, we've got to adapt this story about the government experimenting on kids and dystopia. It's like, yeah, I mean, if you're going to put something into live action, it's automatically going to be less colorful. Make it way too colorful.
Right.
So,
I mean, so we have a live stream with the comments going on right here on twitch.tv.ign and also on youtube.com/IGN. And Sir Chuck says, I love the movie and the comic book, but no more live action movies, except Ghost in the Shell was a good movie. I haven't seen it yet.
I still haven't seen that either, yeah.
I don't have high hopes. Ghost in the Shell was another in the infamous New Jersey Mall bootleg makeup stand guy that sold Asian DVDs. But I'm not entirely interested in seeing a movie that just got completely torn apart by critics. But I'll give it a shot. I fly a lot. It's a good time for an airplane movie.
No, also I think a key term here is adaptation, which is taking something from one format and then doing stuff to it so that it works in another one. And more often than not, we just see this weird visual translation. On the subject of adaptations and whatnot, this is interesting. Two shows that have been sort of a topic of much discussion this year are Inhumans, which hasn't aired yet. That starts up, I think, next month on ABC. That's the one that's based on the well, they're Inhumans. They're not X-Men. They're not at all. They're like weird sort of half super god people from the Marvel Universe.
Yep.
You got Black Bolt and then Medusa and a bunch of other ones. And then there's the Defenders, who are of course, that's the last 4 Netflix shows teaming up. Couple things weird here. First of all, the Inhumans, I believe they advertised it as see the complete series this fall, which seems to suggest that they're not gonna make a season 2.
It means it'll be a 1-season show. And here's the thing, I love shows like that. I think a show like that is great. True Detective season 1, every season of Fargo, effectively.
But they didn't pitch it like this until reviews went up.
Right. So that means that this feels like it just got retconned at the last minute to be a 1-season show, which worries me for a number of reasons. It means that they had to probably scramble to make an ending for this show. So I don't think it's not going to end. It's not going to end well. And I'll tell you why that's probably not surprising to you, because the showrunner of the show did Dexter. And Dexter didn't end well, and it took them 8 years to not end that show well. And so this is sort of in a similar situation, although I think we'll get it out of the way in 13 episodes. Our review for Inhumans went up a couple days ago. We called it inhumanly bad.
Oof. Yeah.
It's not good. They aired the pilot in what was it, IMAX theaters. It got pretty much universally panned. The problem with a show like this is that shows need momentum. And if it's dead on arrival and it doesn't build an audience from there, a show is not like a movie. It can't just survive off the first few weeks and then, China and then DVD releases. If this show tanks in the first 2 weeks, those numbers only go down. It's very, very rare that the numbers spike back up. Because it's very hard to just tune in to episode 3 or 4. Halfway through the season of Inhumans, it's going to be like, this is only for the people who've only seen the first 5 episodes.
Yeah, so I mentioned X-Men a minute ago, and people were in the comments were asking, Sir Chuck was asking, is it based in the X-Men universe? I believe this is based in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The thing that's weird right now is because Fox owns the movie-making rights to the X-Men, Marvel can't touch them, so they're sort of being like, what do we have that's sort of like that? Who are people with superpowers who are basically hated and feared rather than appreciated like the Avengers? So they're like, oh, the Inhumans, they're sort of kind of next best thing. So if you've been keeping track of what Marvel's been putting out, they kind of pulled back on X-Men, and people are unsure if that has anything to do with the movie rights or whatever, but they have been pushing Inhumans a lot more. And I mean, some people are into them, but I think just looking at this show, it looks like they got the costumes at like a Halloween warehouse. It's really, it's just the fact that they're putting it on IMAX, it's like maybe spend less money on the cameras and more money on what you're pointing the cameras at. Just really, really a bummer. In other sort of bummer superhero Marvel news, Defenders, the team up of Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Daredevil is so far, I think the least viewed Marvel Netflix show and one of the least viewed Netflix shows, period, like original series, which is kind of odd because that had so much like leading into it.
I think it's, first of all, there's a number of factors here. Number one, I think we can all admit that the first season and especially the second season of Daredevil were pretty strong shows, right? I mean, they're not great. I watched like, to me, when you talk about TV shows, I think about stuff like Breaking Bad. And it's stupid of me to expect a Netflix Marvel Comics show to be on that level. But for people wanting a good Daredevil show, like that's about as good as we can get it. And if you think about that compared to the movie we got a couple years ago, holy crap, great job.
Sure.
That said, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, pretty good, not as great, but there's also some diminishing returns there. But then you get to Iron Fist, and Iron Fist, once again, universally panned, and to build a superhero team around these characters, and one of them is not loved and has not really earned his way into a seat at the table here, it sort of sours the entire meal if you think about it, right? You have this one ingredient that you have to eat that isn't good. And maybe if you like the rest of it, you can eat around it, but that doesn't work with TV. My pitch for these shows is that they should be 7-8 episodes tops per season.
Right.
They creep around 12, 13 at this point. 13 hours is just, even Luke Cage, like I liked a lot of the stuff in that show.
Yeah. The weird thing though is it's not like they're like, we've got to pad out this series so that we can have more advertising time on like you would on conventional television.
Exactly.
The whole season goes up one day, so to call it a season is kind of disingenuous in itself, but also like, I don't know, maybe just like cut it down a little bit. I'm not saying it needs to be movie length, like take time to flesh it out, but it's just an odd choice to do that.
I totally agree. I think that like the way comic book shows should be pitched is as basically long versions of films, and saying like we couldn't fit the story in one movie, but we could fit it in 2.5. This is the story we want to tell over the course of 7 hours, right? And we don't get that. So in the middle of all of these seasons, you hit around episode 5 through episode 8 or 9, and there's a lull. It just comes to a drag. There's an arc at 5 where you're like, I'm in. This is going good. I've been sitting on this couch for 5 hours. Netflix just asked if I'm okay. I'm going to keep going. And then all of a sudden, it just drags to a crawl,
Sure.
and then it pulls it back together by 13 or 12, and then you see a glimpse of the costume, and then you're gone for 1.5 years.
Sure.
So
also,
it's kind of a problem.
Other thing that's weird is they're pulling from a medium that should make more sense. Like turning a serialized thing like comic books into a movie should be more of a challenge than turning it to a TV show, because you've already got these 32-page long stories, and maybe 6 of them fit together to make a story arc. So maybe adapt issues into episodes and story arcs into seasons. That makes a lot of sense. They've kind of done that with Daredevil and stuff. But what they didn't do that I think maybe they should have is maybe just hold off on announcing Defenders until you really just test the waters with everything.
Yeah.
Because we knew that Defenders was coming before Daredevil had even premiered. Like, which was weird that they were like, hey, all of these guys are going to team up and do stuff, and then there was like, oh, are they going to wind up in Infinity War? Are they part of that universe? And I think they're just sort of, I don't know. Marvel did the same thing with their own properties that they own all the rights to in-house that they did with the movie rights back in like 2000, following X-Men. They just were like, oh, people like our stuff? Well, here, everyone take some. And that's how we wound up in the mess that we're in today, where Fox has the rights to X-Men and Sony has the rights to Spider-Man and so on and so forth. So, we really went on there for a second.
Yeah, well, good. I mean, it's good to talk about this
The
stuff.
good news, though, is that people seem really hyped for the Punisher Netflix show.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also, when you're doing superhuman stuff and you don't quite have the budget necessary, it gets tacky. Like, dude, like Inhumans looks like crap. It looks like a bad show. I don't care if it's the best written thing on TV. It looks corny. It looks like an original cable series.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Punisher is a dude with guns.
Yeah, there's 100 TV shows like that. It's pretty easy to spec that one out, you know? Like, I think that's, like, I'm not the biggest Punisher fan in the world, but I will say I'm right there with you in that that'll work much better, because you don't have to say, like, well, we can't shoot like all of his superpowers. Like, imagine making a Spider-Man TV show where Spider-Man like didn't climb buildings and didn't swing around much.
Just like
but
calls
he
an
used
Uber or something.
He used Spider Sense all the time because that's easy to shoot. You
Right.
know, the Punisher, I think, a lot more grounded. God, that's grim.
Yeah.
So this is what we're going to see from this show. Again, I think it's going to run into the same sort of issue where it's 12, 13 hours long. But the show looks gorgeous. I love New York City. The character's interesting enough to tell the story in a good way. I actually really like Punisher Warzone, the movie.
That one's super fun.
It's kind of just fun.
It's very silly.
Yeah, it's sort of like The Raid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it. So yeah, fingers crossed for this one. I think this is probably the most hopeful I feel about all this. And then we'll see where all this goes once Disney starts launching their own Netflix service.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Yep.
It's hard to imagine Punisher showing up on there and making a ton of sense.
I agree.
Now, big, huge announcement for fans of horror. Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be coming back to the next Halloween movie. They're making another one. It's coming out next year at some point, I think. And I believe Danny McBride is co-writing it, which is really interesting.
I'm fascinated in that.
Excited to see what they do with that. So they posted this photo. She's going to be playing her original character. I'm not sure. I believe this is set in the same kind of original universe. And then in other news, if you'll excuse me for just 1 second, pull up that image once more, please. Linda Hamilton also announced that she's going to be returning to Terminator.
God.
Which is like, it's like, I love that like these women are like, hey, remember that thing that used to chase me around in the 80s? Well, I think I'm going to let it chase me around some more. Which is like, all right, well, I mean, I guess, what was that expression? It's like, this is why we can't have nice things. Like, well, this is why we can't have new things because we like old things too much.
Yep. I think it's fascinating that both of these women who have sort of, really been out of the acting game for a while have kind of decided to come back for these things specifically. And it's not because it's like a special event, for example, that like, it's been so long since we've had them. Like, we've gotten a bunch of not great Terminator movies. We got a ton of not great Halloween movies. But I think maybe they're going to right the wrongs. I think everyone sort of looked at, like, The Force Awakens.
Right.
And they're like, this is the chance to turn this around.
There's been some really weird stuff with the rights to Terminator going on for a while now. I believe James Cameron is currently saying he's going to produce one, and Tim Miller, who directed Deadpool, is attached to direct. Something happened with Genesis where the rights to it went back to somebody original. It's all very complicated, but it also explains why the Terminator series is so kind of all over the place.
Yep.
Kind of a similar deal with Halloween because John Carpenter is effectively an indie filmmaker, and I imagine when he was making a low budget movie back in the day, he was like, yeah, okay, I'll give the rights away because I just want to make the movie. Anyway, speaking again of stuff from the 70s and 80s that we just can't get enough of. They're making a movie about Han Solo. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, that's right. It's Han Solo.
He's didn't you? You knew about that.
Favorite guy from Star Wars is back.
Remember
this
him?
Time he's younger.
Yeah.
He's going to be that guy from Hail Caesar who did that cool dance number with Channing Tatum. But anyway, they fired the Lego director, guys, but they brought in Ron Howard, who directed A Beautiful Mind. That's a fine film about a guy doing math. Anyway, he's directing the movie, and if you like when he directs the movie, well, great news because he tweeted out a photo of a door.
Yeah, not just any door.
No, it's a
door to the Spice Mine.
Maybe. I don't know. I love how the internet is so smart. The internet is so smart, and we're at a point where it's like you can, like the Star Wars Battlefront account, for instance, tweeted out a bunch of blank spaces, and somebody was like, oh, hold on, let me fill in the blanks for all of these. Are these the maps it's going to launch with? Meanwhile, like, Ron Howard being a little more to the point on the nose, but still sort of trying to tease it. Spicy, anybody? It's probably the spice mines of Kessel suggesting that maybe in this Han Solo movie, they're going to do the Kessel run,
Yep.
in 12 parsecs or less or whatever, or more.
Remember the thing he said in the movie the first time?
Who could forget that classic line?
What if you couldn't imagine it?
Spicy.
What if they showed it? What about that?
The other point of this is that the Wookiees would be enslaved at the spice mines, and the whole thing is Chewbacca has a life debt to Han Solo, and maybe this is going to show Han rescuing Chewie from the spice mines on Kessel. Maybe the whole thing is that he's just doing smuggler crime stuff, and he shows up with Lando, and they're like, let's get a bunch of drugs and put them in our car, and then they get the bear in the car with them, and then they drive to the other part of space very fast.
The thing that keep coming back to on this movie is
A Beautiful Mind. It won an Oscar.
Is that
Jennifer Connelly and Paul Bettany, and Paul Bettany's also in this one too. He's going to be playing one of the guys in space.
It's on IGN's top 5 math movies. Look it up. We're dumb enough to do that someday. No, it's just that Han Solo's entire, his perfect arc is told in A New Hope. He's this, smuggler, drug dealer, just piece of garbage dude who's out for himself. He's there for a reward. He might get a little bit of, he might get some action with the princess. That's, sort of secondary to his main mission here, which is selfishness. But he comes around to help the farmer and the woman and the robot and the garbage can to fight the old man in the suit. And they blow up the ball, and he comes back, and he's like, I thought you thought I'd leave because I was selfish, but me and the bear are here to take what's ours and be friends. That's a redemption arc. And so you see this guy turn from this selfish ass to this wonderful guy who's down with the team for every other movie except for Return of the Jedi, where he's hungover and checked out.
I'm blind. Where are we? We're in the sand.
How do I get out of
hate
here?
Sand.
Where's the bear?
Don't let me go in the hole.
Did you get me off that slug's wall? So now, like, they're just gonna show that again. Like, they're gonna show him when he was a kid, and he's gonna be like, I am only here for myself. And by the end of the movie, he's like, I learned a thing or two about friendship for the first time. And Lando's gonna be like, yeah, me too. A little higher. And they're gonna be like, yeah, what if you said that in another film later? And he's like, yeah, I wanna go live in the clouds. And they're gonna be like, yeah, well, what if one day you did? And then, like, they're just telegraphing the whole thing. Or they'll be drinking milk and they'll be like, what if this was blue? Like, why do we have to see all this stuff?
I don't know.
All of it was there.
It's just...
There it is, my new co-host.
Don't replace me with Ron Howard, too. What the hell?
One, what do you think about the Han Solo movie?
Hey. Hey, guys, it's me, Ron Howard. You might know me from Happy Days. So one thing the one thing I'm really excited about is Ron Howard has a habit of putting his brother Clint Howard in all of his movies.
Yep.
He's like the weird... I used to think it was a practical effect. He was the man behind the console in Apollo 13. He just looks like a Muppet, kind of. He's just a weird dude. But he puts him in all his movies, and he just shows up and he's like, hey guys, it's me, Clint Howard, Ron Howard's brother. My director made the film. And everyone's like, all right, that's fine, Clint. And he's all right. He's a decent enough actor. I hope he shows up as like an alien or like a weird guy giving Han Solo a hard time at a bar.
Oh, that's him? I just looked up pictures of him.
Yeah. If you want to have a fun time, just type in Clint Howard in your computer, and then you get to see a picture of Clint Howard.
Ooh.
It's kind of a weird game to play with yourself.
Wow.
Anyway,
okay.
we should probably move on from this.
Anyway.
So they're making another Tomb Raider. Get that out of here. We're trying to do a segue so that later when we clip out this part of the show and put it up on YouTube by itself, it doesn't have like a weird intro.
And people are like, they're not even talking about the Tomb Raider part. They're like, what's that?
Please stop putting Ron Howard in this part of the show. We have to talk about Tomb Raider, which is directed by Roar Uflig or something. He's one of the... Anyway. You ready? Don't do that again.
Is he?
Don't put Ron Howard in the...
Don't do it.
All right. They're making...
Did you see that?
They're making another Tomb Raider movie. It's gonna be the third Tomb Raider movie, but this is a whole reboot. It's based on the new iteration of Tomb Raider. You all know this. You watch IGN. You know what we're talking about, obviously. We got our first trailer. This has got Alicia Vikander, who's an Oscar-winning Danish actress. Actually, no, she was in it. I don't know if she's actually Danish. She played the Danish girl. That's what she won the Oscar for.
She won a Danish.
She got a free Danish
at the Oscars.
Anyway, the point is, she's playing Lara Croft, and they put up this trailer, and it looks like shot for shot from the 2013-2012 reboot game.
Right. Which good, right?
Yeah.
Like that's good, but
maybe I don't know.
Then why are we all kind of like about this? And I was thinking about that, right? Like the reaction to this has been like, yeah, you totally made it look like the game from 2013, but like you also totally made it look like the game from 2013, which means that video game movies are forever in this very tough spot where they can't do anything too different because it doesn't work. But if they do something that's kind of completely spot on, which it looks like they're doing here, then you're kind of like, oh, well, yeah, that's the game, but with someone else playing it.
We put up a video on IGN that is a side-by-side, like recreating the trailer using scenes from Tomb Raider, and I don't think it took that much work because it's all there. Like, it's kind of crazy how much they basically were like, oh, we just reenacted a video game. And I mean, obviously the fun part of a video game is playing it. They have cool stories, but for the most part, that's sort of been incidental historically to games. And in the case of Tomb Raider, it's like so much of it is like that sense of discovery and adventure that you have as the player. But I mean, Lara Croft, she's a character, and I appreciate that. Like she's actually she was one of the first kind of like, hey, let's give her a name. Let's have her doing something. It's not just like the guy who jumps or whatever, or Mario, you know. But like, so what's the point of adapting the game so closely in movie form? Like, what are we getting out of it if it's so close to the game, and people who played the game are like, oh yeah, I love that game. I'll go see a movie. It's like we already played the game.
Yeah. Well, so two things. The parts that we see in this trailer where she's actually tomb raiding are really, really cool because I think it gives the people making this movie a sort of an opportunity to build like these giant, elaborate, almost realistic puzzles that she can solve that we can make different than the game. Like if they take a puzzle from the game that I've solved already and they put it in the movie, I'm gonna be like, I know what to do here. Don't do that.
Right.
But number two, I think it's because like when you're playing a photorealistic video game and they've rendered an entire forest that you can walk around, you're like, holy crap. That was a work of art. Like the ability to make a tree in a video game look realistic, or even draw a tree, is damn near impossible. But to just film the woods is not as interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm holding out hope for this. I really want just an hour of this movie to be straight up tomb raiding. Like just her to be solving puzzle, puzzles, dodging traps, you know, like things are exploding, things are moving around, there's giant set pieces and whatnot. I think that could really work well.
I do like also in the trailer we get a shot of Nick Frost selling her one of her iconic guns. That'll be interesting if they have just all that setup that it requires to be like, oh, you're gonna go into the woods and like she buys her climbing axe. Like I don't know, what if it's like a weird slice of life thing, and then the last 10 minutes of the movie is her just like on this like weird ass adventure where she gets to fall down cliffs and stuff.
Yeah.
That's a weird photo to put up there. Also, here's a fun piece of trivia. Alicia Vikander is currently dating Michael Fassbender, whose one of his last big movies was Assassin's Creed. And I think that was also the last big video game adaptation that came out in feature film form. So I don't know if they just play a lot of video games in that household or if they're both like, the gamers will give us the money, or I don't know. He's Magneto. He can take the coins out of your pocket if he wanted to.
Yeah, I'm hoping this turns out well and that they don't end up with matching Razzies.
Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna talk about Dragon Ball. I'm sorry, Brian. Brian's not a big Dragon Ball boy, but I am. I like the Dragon Ball.
Okay, let me preface something real quick. I have no problem with Dragon Ball. There are things that you love that I don't like. Avatar.
Sure.
For sure. That's one of the things that you love that I'm just like, nope, not really big on that. I saw it and I don't like it. Dragon Ball is one of those things where like I had friends who were into it. I'm totally cool with it. I like the idea of it. I have no problem with it. I just don't know a damn thing about it.
Sure. Okay, well let's talk a little bit about Dragon Ball.
Okay.
And the things that I haven't been keeping up with are probably going to show through because there's a lot of lore there, and I used to be fully up to date, but then they started making new episodes and whatnot.
Okay.
Anyway, Dragon Ball, they're making these new statues. Banpresto is a company. They're sort of a subsidiary of Bandai, I believe, and they're making these very cool statues.
Ooh.
They're like PVC statues, gorgeous sculpting. This is called the World Figure Coliseum. And what's really interesting about this, I've heard the name on weird Japanese hobby sites and stuff, but these are basically they're fan sculpted. Like they're basically they have a contest for sculptors to make these figures. And then they have fans vote on it, and whatever gets voted to the top gets actually put into production, which is like a pretty cool way of going about it because it's not just like some guy whose job it is to make Dragon Ball figures.
You could kill a man with this guy's hair.
Yes, you
that's
could.
How.
And
that's how
you could kill it off also with his fist. So this is Gohan.
Okay.
His dad
Gohan.
His dad is His dad is Goku. Here's
What?
Goku.
That's his son?
Yeah, this is his son. They're also not to scale really.
What does this spell? All these letters?
That's just a bunch of letters. It doesn't really matter.
Is he like the Riddler?
No. I think that's actually that's the guy who trained him to do martial arts magic. That's actually his trainer's shirt.
Does he fight in sandals like that?
No, this is actually based off of just a random drawing. That's one thing I really love about
Beach
this series.
Gohan? So why is he wearing
is-
jeans at the beach?
I don't know.
Is he a
Sometimes,
never
I don't know.
nude?
He's probably gonna do some Jack Johnson covers. I don't know, dude. Like
Okay.
he's,
This is his son?
That's his son. Yeah, his son became Super Saiyan level 2. He's the first person to ever do that. He went Super Saiyan level 2 and he beat Cell.
Is he proud of him?
He's very proud of him, but
That's
he's also.
good.
You showed me a statue of Goku with angel wings and a halo, and you're like, "Hey Max, I got some bad news. Goku's dead." And I was like, "Brian, you know that Dragon Ball Z is mostly about Goku being dead." Like
I
that's
did
the,
not know that. I had
So-
no idea.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch Dragon Ball Z, you know that. And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of a good point." That I realized I spent probably an entire week of high school going home to find out what was happening on Dragon Ball Z, and there was a week where Goku spent every episode having a heart attack.
You could actually tenderize chicken with this man's hair.
You probably shouldn't. Anyway, these run about like $30-$40, depending on I think which ones you get. I actually kind of appreciate that they're not all just like locked in at the same price point.
Who's this?
This is actually
Is that Mega Man's sister?
Close
Mega
enough.
Woman?
Close enough. This character is, if you depending which localization you watch, is either called Launch or Lunch. I've always called her Lunch because most people in Dragon Ball are named after food items. But she's a bank robber, criminal woman who will sneeze and become like the nicest person in the world, or vice versa.
Is she still one of those like weird Donald Duck like rideable quarter machine things from outside of like a supermarket?
No, like Toriyama just has really weird vehicles in his designs. That's what I really like about this series though, is that they will take like drawings from some weird old Dragon Ball like comics and stuff and just makes really realistic statues of them. And
Now on the show, does it always say Dragon Ball underneath everything?
it says at the beginning of every episode, it says Dragon Ball.
So the
But they
title-
have like a 3-minute song before that, and everyone's running and jumping, and there's all sorts of fire everywhere.
Because a lot of this stuff says Dragon
Yeah.
Ball on it.
Now I want to ask you, what do you think? What do you think this character is?
Oh man, he's some sort of sick sumo magician.
So this This is Majin Buu.
What?
Like if you had to guess what sort of like he's sort of a magician, you're not too far off, but
Okay.
like as like a magical deity, what kind of a creature would you think he is?
I would say he's like a wish genie, but
Wow.
he only does like one wish.
He's actually kind of a genie. He's like an evil genie who comes out of this.
He's evil?
He's an evil genie.
Why doesn't he wish for his body to be better?
So he actually, that's a long, complicated
Why is he wearing
thing.
oven mitts?
He actually
he's wearing
takes-
those like chemical cleaner gloves.
I don't really know.
I think he does a lot of dunks in this bag that he wears.
I pretty much almost guarantee that. So the
Look at
weird
that.
thing about him,
Oh, look at that! His turds are here now.
you keep making all these weird assessments of Dragon Ball, but Dragon Ball's fundamentally pretty silly. You held this up and you're like, is that a cookie? And look at underneath here.
Oh,
Yeah,
is that a cookie?
that's a cookie.
Is that Ganon?
No, that's close. That's Dabura. Who's a man who this guy will take his head, which actually pops off
Does this
here.
dude know he's standing on a cookie? Because I feel like he'd
I think that was a weird sort of like little inside joke they did here, but
Oh, he would be so happy
look
if
at
he
it.
knew
He's
there
got
was a
his
cookie down
he's got his
there.
evil face.
He's a big hungry boy. Oh, that's good.
But he takes this weird his little proboscis up here, his little pointy thing, and he'll point it at stuff, and he'll turn it into things. He'll turn people into cookies. He actually goes around and does like mass murder. He goes around the earth and he just turns everybody into candy and eats them.
That's like a bad Jesus.
Sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of.
Like
yeah.
Jesus turned water into wine, and Meijin Jin turns men into cookies.
Yeah, he turns a lot of people into cookies.
I
and
know
then,
what I'm doing up here.
Anyway, this is
Oh, another chicken tenderizer.
Yeah,
Look
good
at
old
that.
chicken tenderized. So this is Brawly. Dragon Ball is confusing in that there's the main story, which kind of makes sense if you follow it straight through, and then there are the movies, which sort of retell stuff from the TV show or the stories, but kind of shuffles them around. Brawly is a character who I think only exists in the movies. He might have shown up in Dragon Ball Super, which is the new show that I'm totally behind on. I think he does because they have blue hair now. I don't fully understand that, but basically Brawly is this. He's this Saiyan. He's a spaceman who got left on a planet by himself and just became like very crazy strong. He's like caveman strong on this funny place. Whereas these fine folks, they grew up on Earth and they're nice, and that's why they appreciate stuff like shirts and jeans.
He's wearing his necklace and his belt, and they're the same thing.
Pretty much, yeah. It's
That
kind of
doesn't make a lot
unclear
of
where
sense.
that all came from.
What's going on back here? So was he walking on the beach and he's like, it's hot, and I got to take off my shirt?
You know what? A lot of times in Dragon Ball, the clothes they get so worked up that their clothes will just explode off their bodies.
What about his shoes? They look like Tom's.
I don't know what's going on with the
For
shoes.
every pair you buy, they will donate another pair to another nonsense-ass Dragon Ball character.
They do wear a lot of stupid little boots.
These are really well-made figures, even if I don't understand them.
Yeah, these are really cool though. They also do, in this same line, they do One Piece, which is a series I know zero about. Here's
Is
Luffy,
this
I
Goku's
think?
son too?
No, close enough. He's
Let's
like
pretend it is.
So I don't. Now this is the part where you can make fun of me. I don't know a damn thing about One Piece. I believe it's about a boy who gets the powers of gum and can stretch his body around and is also a pirate. Don't know if that's right.
That's good.
And then this is, I think, Lonnie. She's also, it's weird because she's like, they're not to scale at all, which is readily apparent by like, look at that.
That's like the opposite of when women date you.
That looks like you and your wife.
Yeah, if I had hair.
Yeah, fair enough.
So what's going on with this lady? What did she step in?
I don't. No, that's
A
like
trap?
that's like a funny like a stand thing. It looks like a trap. Looks like a weird like a.
Don't show that up there.
Oh yeah, I probably shouldn't do that.
Don't show up
Sorry,
there.
it's a family show.
Don't go
Yeah,
in that part.
It's all clips off. Anyway, this whole thing, they're taking this whole contest of like fan sculpted stuff that gets voted on and everything, and they're bringing it internationally. And they're going to be at New York Comic Con, basically showing off all these sculpts made by people around the world, and people are going to be voting on them, and they're going to be announcing the winner of this big contest. I'm really excited to check that out. They always have like a crazy big booth on display. If you want to check out some of the other figures from this big huge weird line, they are Banpresto WFC on Twitter, and just I don't know, they're great. I thought they were way more expensive than they are, but most of these are like $20-30 on Amazon. So
Yeah, these are
if you're
really well
curious.
made. And I love the
Yeah.
idea of taking like fan-submitted artwork
Yeah.
and sort of legalizing it.
Did someone say fan submitted artwork? Because oh, look at what we have here. Some drawings that I did a long time ago. Here's some fan art of Majin Buu.
Is that him?
This is him. Look at him. He's,
Oh,
he's
I want to
just-
put the two next to each other.
Look at. I think they should start sculpting stuff based on my drawings.
You
that I
did
did
great.
That
You
one's
did
that
really
one's
good.
okay. Here's another one that I did with a different pen.
That's
See?
really good too.
It's much thicker. You want to see some ones that are maybe aren't so great?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Here's one of Vegeta, and he's saying, God, I Want a Cigarette. I don't know what. I think that was a reference to like a Newgrounds cartoon or something. Also, I really made use of the paper here.
He's thinking that's a beautiful use of negative space.
Yeah.
2001, huh?
Yeah, that's 17 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, long time. And then here's some of these are better than others. This one's not too bad. It's some okay Trunks fan art. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm happy that Dragon Ball's still around. I like this little guy.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's actually really good. Is he holding a crayon?
He's holding his that's his Nyoibo or his what's it called? Power pole, depending on which version of the translation you want. It's a stick that grows magically. Dragon Ball's weird, man. Dragon Ball's all over the place. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for humoring me, Brian. It was a good time. Also, thank you to Ban Presto for sending those over. Yeah, I like
that. Was awesome.
Yeah, I like he can change his heads around. Do weird stuff with his funny face.
And if you're hungry,
yeah, free cookies.
Free
every
cookies.
purchase. All right, so on the subject of Dragon Ball, real quick. I'm sorry, I know I said we were done. Dragon Ball Fighters is coming out, I think, early next year. That's you check this out. You did an interview for this at Gamescom, right?
Yeah, and so again, like I don't know a lot about Dragon Ball, which I said during the interview. I'm not trying to hide that or lie to people watching these shows, but that game is stunning and it's also incredibly fun, and it gives you the feeling of like. Being able to pull off moves in that game is immensely satisfying because it kicks into this like animated sequence that feels like, it feels like the old Dragon Ball cartoon, right? Like there's there's all this fanfare. It's hand drawn predominantly, but it's also obviously computer assisted.
I'm not even sure what's hand drawn and what's cell shaded because they do such a good job of like kind of popping that in and out. And like I think they're like, oh yeah, Arc System Works, who does Guilty Gear, is working on it, and they're like. I was thinking, it's going to be all hand drawn, and then they do these camera movements where it goes in, and you're like, oh, that's a character model. It just looks gorgeous. What's weird about the Dragon Ball video games is you look at that, it's a martial arts anime. It totally makes sense to turn it into just a fighting game. But they've done these weird sort of like half action, half fighting games. They had this kind of shared world adventure thing, Xenoverse, which had like time travel and stuff, and it was still fighting at its core, but just having a straightforward like. You and your friends beat each other up. That's what it should be. And they've made like piles of really bad Dragon Ball fighting games, but this one looks like it'll actually be pretty solid. There's one character in here who's really interesting. Android 21. She popped up in there a few times. She looks like I don't know if like Bayonetta was like a background in one of those Austin Powers dance numbers. I got a picture of her right here. They revealed her in this scan from Famitsu or Shonen Jump or something. There are 20 androids in existence in the Dragon Ball universe, and then they were just like, here's another one. So I don't know what her story is. I don't know what's going on. I can't read anything on that page there, but I'm really curious to see what they do with it. And I'm like stoked that it looks like they're making a proper solid Dragon Ball video game.
Yeah.
That also has lots of androids in it because I like them. Anyway,
there she is.
There
again.
she is.
She's always in such a great mood.
Looking like fun disco Sarah Palin.
Max, let's talk about speedrunning.
Let's talk about speedrunning. Okay, so speedrunning is a thing that we're just not good at it, are we?
Well,
we're not speedrunners.
We're good at playing games quickly, but we're not good at being good at them. I think that's two very different things, right?
If there's a speed run to building the biggest backlog, I'd say that I'm like speedrunning that right now. But no, like we want to talk about sort of the different moments in speedrunning, not just specific runs, but just really let's talk about 5 great moments in speedrunning just as a culture. So obviously Mario is one of the first games that people jumped onto. Mario 3 is considered by plenty of people to be like one of the best, platforming games ever made.
Yeah.
And of course, as you'd expect, it gets speedrun to hell and back.
Yeah, this is one of those games that I first learned about from the speedrunning community because I play Mario games after the first run through where I kind of take my time incredibly quickly. I hold run, I jump, I get through it as fast as possible. I look like a crazy person and people get mad at me. But I don't know, it's fun. I've beaten Mario World in around 10 minutes and 40 seconds, which is pretty amazing. You got to go through Bowser's back door. That's a real thing.
Now there's a whole thing in the speedrunning community where there are people who do any percentage, which is like if you just get through the whole game start to finish, but then you're like, well, you didn't get all the stars, that doesn't count, that's not a challenge. And there's people who use tool-assisted stuff, so they're like playing on like ROMs or whatever, and they can reload saves or kind of cheat around it. Or people who do, like exploit glitches. There's a guy who manages to beat Mario 3 in under 3 minutes. I believe his name is Mitch Fowler.
How?
I don't know. That's the thing is just to be able to like, it's like hot dog eating contests where you're like, yeah, I enjoy a nice hot dog now and then, but they're like, no. I ate 40 hot dogs. And you're like, what the hell? I couldn't do that taking my time.
Yep.
This dude actually went on the Colbert Report and played through a chunk of the game. I think I think Colbert had to eat something, eat a hot sandwich or something while he was. And it was like, who could do this faster? Can you beat Mario 3 before I finish this? and he wound up beating him because he just got through it in under 3 minutes, which is insane. So I mean, that's also that's a fairly linear game, and it makes sense that you try to get straight through it as fast as possible.
Yeah, and if you think about this one specifically, you get to like the third or fourth world, you grab the warp whistle, and you basically skedaddle, and you get the hell out of Dodge. That brings you almost close to Bowser. The end of this game is what always screws me up because it's incredibly difficult. But he memorized every single jump, and that's the kind of thing about a game like this is that every Goomba, every Koopa, every Bowser is always in the exact same spot. So if you know what you're doing, you can make it look like you're Jackie Chan.
Right, and I mean it's not simple, but it's definitely more simplified.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Demon's Souls is an incredibly difficult game that has like all sorts of moving parts, and there's so many more variables and stuff. And it's just, I remember seeing like speedruns of that and just not even wanting to continue playing games. There's a guy named Sanso84. I found a video of him beating it in under an hour. I actually tried this the first time. I'd seen this before. I really tried to play Demon's Souls. I think it was free on PlayStation Plus or something. And so I got it and I was like, I'm gonna see how far I can go. And I was surprised at how far you can go if you try to just avoid combat. You get to a point though where you're like, oh, I've done no grinding and I do have to fight something and then
Right.
you're dead. But like to just kind of book it, like to just, I don't know, just take off running is sort of hilarious. And also to know where everything is in a game that huge. Like Mario, it's like, I mean, it's almost like a rhythm game when you play it the way speedrunners do. But with Demon's Souls, it's just, look at, this is insane.
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
basically, it's timing every hit perfectly to deflect an enemy off of you defensively so you can just keep going.
Yeah.
And that's tremendous, absolutely tremendous.
Now, one thing I think is really funny is when Skyrim was about to come out, I remember people were asking about sort of the size of it, and obviously it's a huge, massive game, but they were like, some of our playtesters managed to beat the main storyline, the main quest in around 3 hours. And I was like, wow. That's so fast to beat Skyrim, to beat like the main.
Seriously.
And then there are speedrunners who get through it in under half an hour, which I put that on to watch it, and they're just like, also spoilers if you never finish Skyrim, which a lot of people don't. But yeah, there's a lot of jumping and a lot of weird like kind of glitching around safe stuff in this.
Yeah, there's a lot of like sort of shimmying up crevices and walls that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, but it's also like, it's so funny because Skyrim is not a game about, it's not really about technical facility or, I mean, Demon's Souls, you could be like, that's a challenging game. It's about learning how to play it and getting good. Skyrim is kind of like, well, you can, I don't know, collect a bunch of cheese wheels and put a basket on a guy's head or get really good at glass blowing or whatever you do in that game, but it's all about exploring and getting lost. So to try to mainline it is almost missing the point. Not missing the point as much as the dude who managed to beat Portal 2 without using portals, though. This guy's Kitai, I think, but this was going around a little while ago. I think it's got like almost 2 million views on YouTube. Portal 2, just with jumping, and that's it. Just jumping around and just finding all these weird shortcuts. I think this is tool assisted because he's like keeping a track like that. All that stuff in the corner is letting him know like exact frame rates and like where he is and like.
This is like the kind of thing where I play so many video games because of this job. It's my job to stay informed and sort of diversify my portfolio when it comes to games. But I am insanely envious of the kind of people that can just hone in on one and become just expert ninjas at it. I don't have that luxury anymore. I mean, I could. I would just be bad at my job.
Yeah. This part right here, he's like, in order to jump through this railing, you have to manage to bounce slightly off of that mesh part on the side. And I'm just like, what? So you just, and like, I can't imagine on a speed run to be doing this one thing repetitively. I imagine that's incredibly frustrating. Like if you're being chased by the cops and you're like, oh, the elevator's broken.
There's
like,
so many variables, right?
Yeah.
Like if you miss that one hop the first time, then you got to do it 20 times like we're seeing here.
That's actually really funny because in Portal 2, there's like graffiti that just says too many variables. It's very
Probably some of my favorite footage we've ever shown on
Yeah, it
this.
was very, anyway, I like, speedrunnings are exciting and fascinating. Anyway, here's a guy hopping on a railing. Now, my absolute favorite thing that people have figured out how to speedrun is getting banned from the children's game Club Penguin.
Yep.
Which is really fascinating because there's like, and I was looking into this, they have rules. The video we're about to show of this guy getting banned from this, he apparently was like, this used to be the world record. I think it's under like 43 minutes or something, or maybe seconds, but it's like, it used to be the world record, but then they banned bookmarks. so he couldn't use bookmarks. So you have to like start from your desktop, open up the browser, go to clubpenguin.com, create a new account, log in with your email, get it verified, go through, and then just start spamming a bunch of bad stuff to see how quickly you can get kicked out of the service, which is like, that's not really a game, but I guess it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so yeah, a salute to speedrunners. Whatever it is they're speedrunning, it's an odd practice, but it's also very fascinating to watch.
Keep playing the games quick.
Play the games however you want, just do it fast.
Go faster.
Anyway, I'd like
It's that time, Max, that time where I reach down and I pull up a box that has a hole and some hair coming out
Let's show
of
off
it.
the hole first. We've captured something very upsetting. We've got a brand new Star Wars: The Last Jedi Build-A-Bear. Pull out some of that hair that's in that hole. They sent us this. Can you guess? Can you guys guess what
the Star
character this is?
Wars, feeling the Star Wars.
this-
little old hair.
This feels like when they have that. They have those like. I don't know if you're on like an airplane and somebody's got a pet carrier and you're like, what's in that? What's in that?
I don't
that
like
pet
this.
carrier. Oh! Take a look at that. Look at that. It's just like a. Oh, look at that. Let's just get a nice zoom in on that. Show that off. It's very upsetting.
Oh, here we
Ooh.
go. Here we go, guys.
right.
Are you ready?
Oh, that's actually a wig. Oh,
No.
it's
Oh,
Ray.
it's
Everyone
Ray.
loves Ray. So yeah, Build-A-Bear, if you're unfamiliar, is that place at the mall where you can buy a stuffed animal skin and just shove a weird pipe in the back of it, and it'll just fill it with foam and stuff. It comes with a lightsaber that works. Actually, you have to buy the lightsaber separately. I don't like the wig at all. I don't like the idea that a bear would have human woman's hair. Also, when it just starts coming off, that's just like a weird mullet. That's just not great. It's a nice enough bear when you take the wig off it, and it's all like stuck on, and the hair gets all stuck in there. That part's
come
upsetting.
off?
I think it's supposed to come off. There's like labels and stuff. We might have just ruined the stuffed bear. So yeah, the bear itself, totally fine. The wig, I don't like the wig. It's upsetting. Anyway, the bear is $35, and the lightsaber, which is weird because it's a, oh, good God. Oh.
Hello, it's me, Ronald, and I work at Build-A-Bear. Come on down and we'll make any one of your favorite women into a small, ornate bear. Yes, yes, yes. We all love Star Wars.
And this winter, we're looking forward to finding out who is the last Jedi. I'm not hitting anything. I don't know why it's making those sounds. This is awful. So yeah, if you've ever wanted a stuffed animal that lights up and has women's hair, great news. There it is.
And if you ever wanted to see what I looked like as a 70s dude in jail, there's that.
I mean, that's what you look like normally, man.
All right, I'm glad to get that hellish beast away from us for a moment. It's weird, I love Star Wars and I love bears, but sometimes the never two shall intertwine.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
You got a book,
I got a book.
which is different than anything else that we've ever talked about on this show, because you have to read it.
Yeah, so Sid Mead is one of the best science fiction concept artists ever, period, pretty much. He's the guy who worked on Blade Runner, he worked on Aliens, he worked on all kinds of stuff like that. He's kind of in the same ranks of Ralph McQuarrie and H.R. Giger and people like that who just, I don't know, just designed worlds. They just put out this book. It came out, I believe, day before yesterday. I pre-ordered it months ago on Amazon. It says it's $49.95, but I think it's like $30 right now. If you're interested in science fiction or art or design, go get it as soon as you can. It is gorgeous and it is utterly fascinating. It's got a foreword by the guy who's directing Blade Runner 2049 and talks a bit about just sort of the different design philosophies that went into all the cool stuff like, the cars in Blade Runner. What's really cool is Sid Mead, his background is in engineering and industrial design, so he draws stuff to look like it would look if it was real.
Yeah.
And that's especially apparent when you talk about his work on, let's see, the ships from Aliens. He designed the Sulaco. And it was it's funny because he also worked on the first Star Trek movie. And there's certain kind of like, hey, this is science fiction, but how serious is the science part of it? And in the case of this, it was like, this is a military ship. They're not really screwing around. It's kind of straight to the point. But then you keep going, and he talks more about like designing the interiors and how he was, working with like what was realistic with the budget and like basically being like, how would people actually live here?
Right.
Now, obviously, stuff like Aliens and Blade Runner are they're cool, they're interesting, but they've had art books, left and right and all over the place. He also worked on The Core, that movie about the people going inside the planet, which is not a great movie. But what's really fascinating is he designed that thing that they drill down with, and there's like pages of details about what he was thinking and what he was going on with. What I think is really just most fascinating of all, though, is there are bits of concept art in this book for movies that I've never heard of that don't exist. There was
movies that never came out, right?
Movies that just never got greenlit, so they were just part of the pitch process. This is for a movie called Topeka, which, from the sounds of it, was about like an evil corporation going to war with a bunch of cyberpunk Native Americans, and they had this odd like here's a car that like it hovers. It's got like hovercraft jets on the bottom, but it's based on like an old like 1930s car, but it's got all this crap glued to it. There's another one in here that I also had never heard of. I feel like you could probably find scripts for it floating around online somewhere, but it's called Belittled, and it's the idea for this movie. I love this. This is utterly shameless. The movie was in the works in around 1997. It was basically somewhere between like Small Soldiers and The Borrowers. So it's about, I think they describe it as something between like a Fantastic Voyage, where they shrink people down, and a Rat Pack like heist movie, so like Ocean's 11 or something. So this is the spaceship here, and you can see there's like sunglasses and keys there and a bunch of books in the background. But basically, the idea here was to sell toys and market them as being fully to scale. They're like life-size toys. So it's like, as opposed to something like you go see, I don't know, Battlestar Galactica, and you're like, the spaceship, just like in the movie, but it's like a little toy. In this case, you're like, nah, this is the same one you saw in the movie. That's exactly how big it's supposed to be.
So that's on Amazon now, right?
It's on Amazon. I think I saw it on Target. It's all over the place.
Yeah, it was like 30 or 40 bucks on there.
Yeah, it just came out. What's really cool though is I googled this movie Topeka, and I found nothing online. I'm sure if I dug a little deeper, it might turn up. But it's kind of cool to buy a book in 2017 that has stuff that you've never seen before, and for it to be like, here's a reveal. So, if you're a fan of art, design, science fiction, filmmaking, jump on this.
Do that. Max, easily a top 3 holiday is coming up very soon. It's called Halloween. Maybe you've heard of it. Maybe you like to dress up. Some of you may have seen just moments ago where I wore a bear's wig and stared into the camera. And
that sure was a good time.
Halloween is the perfect time to eat like there's no tomorrow, and also to make food decisions that you normally wouldn't make throughout the rest of the year. Or maybe you do. Maybe you have great metabolism. I don't. So I have to save it for the special time of year called Halloween. Jet.com, which is an online retailer, did this awesome thing where they basically polled their audience and looked at the rankings of the most popular Halloween candies, and they broke that into 2 groups. Children and adults. I always thought Halloween meant that like everyone ate the same amount of junk food at the exact same time, right?
Everyone eats exactly 1 shipping container full of candies.
That's true. That's what I do. Or if you can fit it in a potato, like a giant bag, or like a big hollow pumpkin, anything you want to eat it out of is fine. The weird thing about this is that adult humans and children humans on Halloween have incredibly different tastes when it comes to Halloween candy. So they brought us a list of 10 on each side. So let's go through it.
Yeah, so we're going to do this side by side. Let's take a look. We got a nice scoreboard set up here.
Okay.
On the left side, we got adults. On the right side, we got children. As you can see, adults are scary and they like graveyards and they're cool. Children like garbage craft sculptures and those hay bales that you sit on and they're uncomfortable.
This looks like 2 bootleg Korn album covers side by side.
Yeah, this is my new album. It's called Adults, Children.
We got to get you some more fonts.
Anyway, so number 8. Adults like Kit Kat minis, and children like Laffy Taffy.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Kit Kat minis on this one, man.
That's a pretty safe bet. So here's the thing. I'm not wild about Kit Kat minis. I think they're fine. Adults tend to like chocolate more. I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Like, there's just a thing where like adults just are like, I don't want to screw around with like funny fruity stuff.
Do you know why? I think it does a better job of hiding the fact that you're eating pure sugar than Laffy Taffy, which is basically just you're eating pure sugar with a free joke.
And also, I would say if it was just straight Laffy Taffy, I'd be like, that's fine. But I feel like, and this might be one of those Cinnamon Toast Crunch things where as I'm an adult, I just can't open Laffy Taffy anymore. Mm-hmm. First of all, the jokes suck. Second of all, every time I try to open one of those things, the wrapper gets like stuck on there and I have to peel it out. So I'm gonna go with the Kit Kat on that one.
Yeah. Also, what's a fresh Laffy Taffy taste like? I've only had one from the 60s. Like, I've never bitten into a Laffy Taffy and been like, oh, that was just made.
They only made them that one year in the
They're
60s.
only
yeah.
like they're like small rocks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So number 7, adults like Snickers minis and kids like M&Ms.
This is pretty close, but kids are screwing up with the regular, just the vanilla M&Ms there, the base M&Ms, because they should be going with peanut or peanut butter or coffee, which was a limited run at Walgreens. I don't know why I know a lot about this.
You love coffee.
And I love M&Ms.
They do make a lot of different M&Ms flavors. If we're yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I think that plain regular M&Ms I like them, in a nice ice cream maybe.
Side note, my stomach literally started growling during this entire segment.
I heard that. I thought that was something else. But
Snickers
anyway.
minis are awesome
Yeah.
because Snickers are awesome, and then Snickers minis are smaller versions of a thing I love, which means
right.
you can justify eating 15 of them.
So yeah, I think that's so 2 for adults being right, children being wrong yet again. That's why they don't let them drive. All right, now here's where it gets really weird.
What?
Adults apparently really like Fun Dip, which it's fine. It's a weird novelty.
Did they mean skull?
I don't. Yeah. Did they not know that that's anyway? And the kids like Sour Patch Kids.
Definitely going with the kids on
Yeah,
this one.
kids, you were right. Good call on that one.
Yeah.
Adults, what kind of adults are having Fun Dip? That's
Dude.
You can't even like pretend that's regular. That's like weird novelty candy. That's like
I don't
putting
even want to
a
see.
goo
I
in
don't
a
want to
tube.
see anybody eating Fun Dip, let alone like a weird grown man on the train and he's sitting there and he's dipping that cigar in there and he's
Yeah.
like, nah, 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 nah.
Yeah, you could put Sour Patch Kids in a briefcase and look like you're an adult, but any Fun Dip, no,
Yeah.
that doesn't work. You just look like
Sour
you're doing,
Patch Kids are gummy bears on an adventure.
Yeah, Fun Dip, you look like you're doing like a drug from RoboCop 3 or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's where I'm just like, okay,
Wow.
adults, no thanks, sorry.
Wow, not even
Yeah.
close.
Yeah,
This is not even close.
Skittles, hands down. So we're 2 for 2 here. The kids are sometimes right, and the adults so far have been wrong the last 2 times. This is like a weird sport.
This is
just
like
making
having. This
children
is
and
like.
adult
This is
compete
like
in buying candy.
This is like what it's like to have a pet dog versus like having a pet rat.
Yeah.
This is hard. Candy corn.
Yeah, candy
What
corn.
kind of-
look,
what-
candy corn is take it or leave it for. I just
Leave it.
Leave. I know you can leave it, but it's also it shouldn't be on this list. It's such an archetypal base. It's like, what's your favorite dessert? Oh, I don't know, flour. You're like, don't eat. No, that's part of. You put it into something else. Do more with it. Moving on, Hershey's Kisses and Nerds. I'm gonna go with the kids again.
I really like the almond Hershey Kisses though, man. Those are really good. They're
Are we
really
counting the
good.
ones that have the white chocolate? They look like little zebras.
I don't mess with those.
I like those ones. The cookies and cream ones are okay. Those are all right.
Nerds like that's nerd again. This is flavor by flavor here, right? Cherry Nerds are horrible. They taste like sucrettes.
Well, who has cherry Nerds? I like the purple ones.
It tastes like what food do you eat when you're sick?
I'm frequently sick around Halloween time because I go in people's yards all night.
All right, let's keep going.
All right, now here's where I'm like, ooh, maybe adults are finally getting the hang of things. Swedish fish. Twix
Okay.
are good. Twix are good, but I like Swedish fish better.
It's weird. Children have the teeth for Swedish fish. Adults do not.
Yeah, kids. While
Adults
you
have the
still,
teeth of an old
listen,
horse.
If there are any children watching, first of all, please stop that and go do literally anything else. Second of all, while you still have your baby teeth, eat as much candy as you can. Just go nuts, go crazy. I don't know why I said it that way. I hate doing videos.
I love Twix.
Mitch.
Twix are great. If we got a Twix, I would open it up, take both out, eat them both in front of you.
Yeah. All right. You're a bad friend and a cruel man.
That's not true. I love you very much.
Shut up. Number 2. Adults like M&Ms and children like Starburst.
They meant the wrapper.
This gets tricky because no matter what color M&M you're eating, it's all this. It's going to be this. It's got chocolate in the inside. Whereas there's always that Russian roulette with Starburst, where you're like, I wonder what it'll be, and maybe it's the red ones or the pink ones, and maybe you get 2 lemon ones, and it's like you got 2 little hotel soaps that they expect you to eat.
Yeah, M&Ms are fine. Like their base version is not that great. They are not a number 2 candy. Adults, how are you running this country? I'm worried about you.
Yeah.
Give the kids the keys to the car.
That's
to
horse
the
apples.
candy
Now,
store.
number 1, this is where it gets just really, really weird. Adults like Reese's Cups, just already siding there, and kids like Smarties. It's 2017. We
What?
have so many great candies out there. There's all kinds of different ones you can have. Why do children want Smarties?
What the hell is wrong with you
They don't even
children?
sell Smarties on their own. These children are wrong and they're stupid and they're bad. Skittles should be number 1.
All the kid stuff is colorful.
Children do like
Dan
colors.
Parkhurst, our producer, just pointed out that all the kid stuff is colorful. Reese's, there we go. Reese's are definitely a top 2.
Yeah,
Reese's are
totally,
phenomenal.
Totally.
Excellent work.
But that's
they're
also
doing
because
over there.
you're old and your taste buds have all died and you like the salt. You like the salt.
I like the salt. I like
the
peanut
salt.
butter. Smarties.
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you a story about Smarties.
Don't
we
you-
went to a house when we were kids. We were trick or treating. They left out a big bowl of Smarties, and they just left it there. And we were like, we got to do that thing you do where people leave out the bowl of candy. You steal the whole thing and the bowl. And you throw the bowl in the woods. Here's what we did with the Smarties. We took the whole bowl. We took the Smarties and we threw them all over their lawn, all over the lawn. And then we stole the bowl and then we threw it in the woods. Kids, What is wrong with you? What's next? Wax lips and bottle caps? What year is it? The 40s? Smarties?
That's what year it is. The 40s.
God!
Anyway, that's about all the time we have for today. Speaking of the 40s, we have like Blade Runner 2049 whiskey, and I had like a great segue queued up. I was going to be like, candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker, which brings us to our next story. But we don't have time for that, so I'll have to save that for next week, and maybe we'll talk about candy again.
Yeah, I guess next week we'll drink in the middle of the day.
Why not?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So that was this week's show. We had a good time. I hope you guys had a good time. If you hated the show, well, that's on you. You watched it. You watched the whole thing.
Yeah, maybe you have bad taste. You would love Smarties.
Sorry, children. Anyway, huge thanks to our sponsor, 5 Hour Energy, for sponsoring the show, letting us talk about speedrunning, and for buying me this bear. Let's just get a quick look at this great bear. Seriously, I love this bear. This is supposed to hold salt and pepper shakers. You can find this on Amazon.com, but you can also stick 5 Hour Energies right there. So you should only consume one at a time. But if you want to have something to hold them, they have all kinds of different woodland creatures up there. I don't have any. Don't. What are you about? Don't eat the plastic cookie. Also, yeah, huge thank you to Ban Presto for sending over these Dragon Ball figures that now I don't want because Brian licked it.
That's how I lose weight. I eat fake food and Smarties.
That's a good trick. Yeah, head down to the Play School Fun Factory, get those weird little magnetic hot dogs or whatever. Anyway,
thank you so much for watching.
Yeah,
remember, I don't remember anything about these men, but I'm sure it's fun.
Dragon Ball's a great time. Have a good night.
See you soon.